Okay. So this is a special episode of Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. We have Ricky Glore here,
Hello.
who is the director. He also starred in Sweetmeats. We of course have Fuzzy, and hopefully we'll see Silent Cypher in a few minutes. If not, he'll be around. So we're here to talk about the new film Sweetmeats. We will discuss, timing of release. It hasn't been released yet, but it was on Indiegogo. So therefore, some people have seen it because they have gotten their DVDs already from the promotion. So we're gonna give Ricky a chance to tell you all about it, and then we'll be asking him questions.
It almost sounded like you're getting ready to say, like, we're going to give Ricky a chance to defend this atrocity that he has forced people to watch and will be forcing others to watch, almost as if they are the hostage people in the basement of the Sweetmeats restaurant being forced to view this. Sweetmeats was our second movie, our second feature film. We made All Your Friends Are Dead for $5,959, an amount that my partner Nick Hyance is like, stop telling people. Like, maybe they'll watch it and they'll think that we made it for more. And I'm like, no, you don't have to worry about that. It looks like a $6,000 movie. Looks and sounds, more importantly, like a $6,000 movie. But we wanted to make our second film with All Your Friends Are Dead. If you go back and listen or watch any podcast that I did promoting the Kickstarter for that, we had filmed the middle chunk of that movie before doing the Kickstarter, and so we edited that together. And I knew there was comedic elements of that movie, but when I was on podcasts trying to get people interested to do the crowdfunding, I was like, look, this isn't going to be like Friday the 13th. It isn't going to be just all the kills are in the last 20 minutes. Like, it's going to be, because we had just filmed the middle, which is mostly just kills. But then when we ended up executing the rest of the movie and changing the script a little bit, it ended up being that kind of all the kills are in the last like 20 to 30 minutes. And so I ate a little crow on that, but we ultimately made a movie that I really was proud of, especially with, like I said, it was made for $5,959, but actuality, I think it's a $10,000 movie. It's a $6,000 movie with $4,000 worth of favors to get a lot of the things that we got. And with that movie, we submitted it to a lot of festivals, which ended up costing a lot of money. And the hardships of that were we submitted to a lot of horror festivals. And sometimes you can get rejections and they will give a reason. If you want any notes or feedback, which we did, we were more than happy to get notes and feedback. And a lot of the horror festivals we got rejected from said the movie is more of a comedy than it is horror, because those festivals tend to look for horror films that are extremely disturbing, have a lot of gore or a lot of TNA. I'm guessing that's the programmers know the kind of people that are coming, and that's what they want to see. No knock on that. I love my fair share of that. But it was disheartening because then we would submit All Your Friends Are Dead to non-horror festivals, to more just indie film festivals. And the notes we would get back were that well, it's a horror movie. We don't really program horror movies. So we spent a lot of money on festival submissions, and the first thing we thought of when going into our second movie was we want to correct the issues technically, thematically, narratively, cast, crew. Not like any big issues of cast and crew or special effects, but there were some that we wanted to do better on our second movie. And so the other thing was, we're like, well, we want to find a way that it gets seen, for it to get seen. So when we started, we actually were putting together a dark comedy. There's Silent Cypher. Welcome.
How are you?
I was just telling the long-winded version of getting into Sweetmeats. I will try to condense it. We tried making a horror comedy musical movie called Open House, which we put it on Kickstarter just because of the slight edge of prestige that Kickstarter is supposed to have over Indiegogo, and that's what
Mhm.
we had done All Your Friends Are Dead with. And the only thing is with Kickstarter, part of the prestige is they take less funds, but you also only get your money if you completely fund it. We
Mhm.
thought putting on Front Street that this was going to be more dark comedy horror, and especially with the musical aspect, made it more unique. And pretty
Mhm.
quickly, we got a lot of support online for sharing the project, sharing the Kickstarter from like Roger Avery, Edgar Wright, just a handful of kind of notable names sharing the project, and none of that transferred over to the Kickstarter, to anybody looking at
Mhm.
that being like, I got to give that money. And so then we had to put a stop on that project. We had it cast, we were in pre-production, but everybody was understood that if we didn't make X amount of dollars in a certain date, we weren't going to get it. uh Awesome setup for a hot second that I saw there, Silent Cipher.
Sorry about that.
No, you got
Oh, you're
awesome
fine. You can
display
stay on
behind
if
you.
you want.
Thank
I
you.
love your I don't even know how to
There.
call what to call the Wolverine popcorn bucket. It looks like something you get at a Hustler of Hollywood store.
Yeah, it's a conversation piece. We'll put it
Yeah.
that way, right? Anytime someone sees it, there's usually a little bit of blushing.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
conversation is like, do you want that wrapped around your penis? And then end of conversation.
Yep.
But so everybody was understanding if we don't get the budget, can't make it. We're only looking, gosh, I think for that movie to get $10,000, $12,000,
Mhm.
maybe kind of like double what we had originally. And the learning that came from that was, I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe for the same reason that the festivals want more of a horror movie for the horror fests, maybe we shouldn't put it on Front Street, or maybe the people who are willing to give to an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter low budget horror movie, they also don't want something so off the beaten path of what they're used to when it comes to the hack and slash crowd-funded horror movies. So like we were trying to think of like with Evil Dead, Sam Raimi, he doesn't, when he puts out a trailer for a movie, like if you see the trailer for Drag Me to Hell, if you see that trailer and if you know who Sam Raimi is, you're like, awesome, Sam Raimi. It doesn't mention it's a comedy, but I bet you there's some comedic shit in there. And if you do know Sam Raimi, you kind of get that without it saying it. But if you don't know him, you see that trailer and it just looks like a kick-ass horror movie. So he doesn't even really need to say it, because maybe if he does say it, maybe it would hurt him too. But within that, as disappointing as it was, that movie not happening, because we had a great team behind it and everyone was really enthusiastic and we were really looking forward to doing it. Baked in it was this musical idea, and I had already developed a low rent backstory. I would say definitely inspired by what uh what they were doing with X, Pearl, and upcoming Maxine. I was like, well, what would open houses Pearl be? Because I really was struck by Pearl. I really liked what he did with it. And I was like, whoa, Sweetmeats. Because Sweetmeats existed in Open House as this weird commercial that was always kind of like playing on this TV, and you never really knew what it was. And they were cutting open people and their guts were dropping into buckets that had a Sweetmeats logo on it. And you're like, what is this fast food restaurant? How is it connected? And then Bob Sweet the third, who's hardware store Bob from All Your Friends Are Dead, who loses his eye, he appeared at the end of Open House, and he was in the commercials and stuff. So we had a restaurant for Open House where we're going to do all the Sweetmeats restaurant stuff that was going to appear in there, but we were only going to film for like a day, maybe 2 days. And so I went to the restaurant owner and I was just like, okay, we're pivoting. and there was some skepticism amongst our group, including my partner, Nick Hyance, who was just like, really? We're going to pivot this quickly? And I'm just like, I wouldn't if I wasn't sure of what I wanted to do. If I didn't already see the movie in my head and I didn't have a pretty solid lock, Eileen Ernest, who was in All Your Friends Are Dead, she wasn't going to be able to be an open house, but based on the shifting of 2 months, she was able to do Sweetmeats, and I pitched her what it was. I was like, it's 70s Macbeth with country music, and she was into it. Timmy Barone, who played Jerry, was going to be one of the 2 leads of Open House. I wasn't going to be in Open House and was very happy about that. But when it came to trying to figure out how to do as low rent of a movie again, like All Your Friends Are Dead, I was like, well, I got to be in it myself. So the crazy thing about all this is we get it going. It's not pitched. So I decided to put on Indiegogo to move from Kickstarter to get whatever funding we can. And I was going to throw in the rest of the funding. I put together this proof of concept where I was like, okay, I'm going to in a little bit of a spiteful way. I filmed a proof of concept that was very satirical of like drive-in movies of the 70s, like those grindhouse movies, and made it feel like it could possibly be a porn, kind of making fun of my displeasure at people who wanted to support crowdfunding horror movies, that all they want to support are these movies where you might see some skanky girl's tits. Again, not judging, because there's a fine market for that. But I was hurt by being like, well, I want to do this weird thing over here. Now, this is a struggle that I'm happy to tell you before we even release the movie, that now that we're with Trauma, which again, things started snowballing. Roger Avery again supporting, Edgar Wright supporting. Roger Avery's like, I want a Blu-ray. Send me a physical Blu-ray when the movie's done. I want to see this movie, just based off the idea that it was like Smokey and the Bandit meets Motel Hell, or Rocky Horror Picture Show meets Motel Hell, or Phantom of the Paradise meets Motel Hell. Motel Hell was always in there in some way, because I think Motel Hell is a underrated, hilarious horror movie that was ahead of its time. But so how Trauma and Lloyd got involved were 2 weeks before we were filming. I had reached out to him because I had this commercial, this vacuum cleaner character, Lloyd Duckwood, which I just named it after him. I was like, if he does it, great. If he doesn't, I still love the name. And it's this scene. Maybe first I was like, I tweeted Lloyd and I was just like, hey, can you share our campaign? It could be like a Trauma-esque kind of movie. Might be something right up your guys' alley. Would you mind sharing it? And he's like, anything for an indie filmmaker. And then I was like, okay, well, now I got a dialogue going with him. I was like, hey, is there any way you would want to make a cameo in the movie? And he was like, sure. And then I was like, great. And, I just kept on going back, like not asking for too much, but just asking like for an additional serving, or maybe some more ice cream. And I was just like, hey, would you film a video showing your support for this movie that you're going to cameo in? And he was like, yeah. And then after all that, I was just, holy moly. I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is a win for the movie. And we were getting our budget. We were getting everything we wanted on Indiegogo, from the proof of concept. Whether people now feel that was a bait or switch, I'd be interested in hearing. I also have another bait and switch part of this whole journey. But Lloyd then was like, hey, can you send me over the full script? And I was like, of course, that makes sense. You don't want to film a cameo for a thing that's like, could be just Nazi propaganda. So yeah, like, let's take a look at the whole thing. Or have someone skim it, have your assistant. So I sent it over to him, and pretty quickly, this is again like a week and a half before we're filming, and he's just like, hey, I'd love to get on a phone call. Do you have any idea who might be distributing the movie once it's made? And I was just like, no. I'm like, ourselves. The one thing we wanted to do with not having a great experience with the film festivals, was the one thing we knew we wanted to do was possibly just take it around and four-wall it ourselves. Or just because I do have a stand-up background, maybe trying to do like a real low-rent Kevin Smith thing and take it around and do a show and watch it with people. And so then we talked. He's like, yeah, I think Troma would like, if you're interested buying it, we'll distribute it and we'll be the executive producers. And it was just kind of overnight, not a lot of negotiating. And we then went from a musical horror dark comedy that we canceled because no one was interested, to a week and a half before rolling camera and having our budget, him being like, yeah, I want to do it. And then the other final bait and switch, and I swear I'll hand the conch shell back over, is the poster we had done, which is it's phenomenal. It's a beautiful piece by Sadis Art Designs, Mark Schoenbach. I love it, but I did, especially after the bait and switch of the proof of concept, I was just like, you know what? Is this like Microwave Massacre? Like when you'd go to the video store and you see those big box with those big, beautiful posters, and then the movie was dog shit. It was nothing as cool as the poster, like tone wise, look, like wasn't as much
Uh-huh.
gore. Like, and I was like, okay, I'm okay with this for a little bit. But then thinking about the proof of concept, I was like, okay, I also want to put together a poster that is more indicative of what it is. So then we commissioned this more retro style, like I said, late 70s kind of drive-in South exploitation looking poster. So I was like, great, now we have both of them. So one poster does kind of harken back to that video store big box bait and switch. This one kind of does give you a better idea of what it is. And we have set on the premiere date, which we're not allowed to publicly announce until after
Mhm.
Christmas,
Okay.
but it is going to be in March, and Lloyd is going to be in attendance, and it's going to be a pretty cool event. That's all I can say.
Nice. That's an awesome like origin story of how you went from, funding the first film, working on a second film, and then getting to this one. I think a lot of credit goes to uh, all of the legwork that you did as far as reaching out to people, and I guess that experience as far as working with some of these uh, like festivals and things like that. And I could see how some of the festivals are, I guess, a little more stringent on what they want. They don't necessarily want the comedy horror films, or they want more of the, I guess, the smaller, lightning in a bottle kind of things in a weird way. But I think this is a better road to reaching the fans and things like that than, maybe some of the festivals would have provided at that point.
And that's well, I mean, that's the number one thing that sold us with Trauma, because Lloyd's, the biggest thing he said, he was just like, just go and make your movie, take it around to Netflix, take it around to Amazon. I was just like, Lloyd, I don't have Ted Sarando's number. I was like, I'm talking to you right now. And I was like, and this is a big
Mhm.
deal for me, it being a Trauma movie. Now, where we're at now, Trauma's been awesome. They've been
Mhm.
incredibly supportive. The only thing, again, with that bait and switch thing, it's not a big concern of mine because I'm proud of the movie. I'm happy we made the movie we wanted to make. But I am very curious, and I can't wait for this, because this is all I want, is just to be in a room full of people who are watching this thing I made and see how they react to it, for better or for worse. I do wonder if the more diehard Trauma fans, what they will think of it, if it will appease their appetites, based on my knowledge of the other Trauma filmography.
So, of the three of us, I'm the bigger Trauma fan than these two.
Mm-hmm.
Can we agree to that?
Yeah.
Yes, you've probably seen a lot more than I have at this point. I'm still doing my homework and catching up.
So as the one that's seen a lot more Trauma, and has seen the original cult classic beyond just Toxic Avenger, I
Mhm.
can say this is pretty on par with what Lord Kaufman would have produced himself if he had the idea.
That is very nice. And just hearing this right now, not just that, but it just dawned on me, you all are the first people that I've talked to that has seen the movie. You are the first podcast, because I haven't. I did a handful of pre or even during production interviews, or while we were doing in post production. But yeah, you three are legit the first podcast that I've talked to that actually watched the movie. So feel free to trash it. Feel free to give me whatever. Like, I'm not gonna be like, and this is an outrage. Like, I can't believe.
Who wants to go first?
Who wants to drag him through the
all
mud?
right, let's put it this way. Who is going to have to leave the podcast first? Fuzzy.
Well, it's only because I have a gaming one right after this, but I guess I'll start off. Like, for me, I like horror films and I like comedies, and with this being the combination of the two to some extent, I enjoyed myself. And I have to admit, the characters, while on the extreme side as far as either in the crazy aspect of things or utterly mean aspect, I love how each character's, the character arcs as well as just their personalities. Like the key thing, like with Laddie or Lady, or we'll go by her real name being Laddie. I love her sarcasm, and like you could tell the I wouldn't say a real abuse, but the emotional torture that she's going through, being the daughter of somebody that wanted a son as his first child, and just how whenever people bring it up, or like the one customer brings it up, and it's like, no, this is how it is, and just take your drink and get out of here, kind of thing. And it's like that was funny. And the pizza guy, like, I was joking with my wife. I was like, if I was like your character at that point, it's like, I need an adult. You can clean up at the register. I need
that
some
was
help,
one of the best.
But
that's Kim Sherwood, who also appeared in All Your Friends Are Dead, and as a much more restrained character as the detective at the end, which was dumb on my part. I should have. So in the script, so I asked Kim, I was like, "Will you be in the next movie?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't care what." And he's like, "What character do you want me to do?" I'm like, "Well, the character's called Kim the Pizza Guy." So I wrote it for you because I realized how stupid it was having you restrained in the first movie. We do stand up together. We actually just had a string of shows this past weekend where we were up in Indianapolis and then up in Michigan. I was telling him, I was like, look, you're going to be like you're going to be like the Jim Carrey, Martin Short of this movie. There's going to be people who love you and think you are the bee's knees and so funny. And there's going to be people that are just like, Jesus Christ, get off the fucking screen. We're going back to him. But so I told him, I was like, but I guarantee you, I think for my money, you are going to be. So if anybody's seen All Your Friends Are Dead, anytime I've seen it with an audience, they say that Hardware Store Bob cracks them up. That scene, the two scenes that he's in, they love. I'm like, you're gonna be Hardware Store Bob from All Your Friends Are Dead. Like, people are gonna love it or people are gonna hate it. I don't think there's gonna be any middle ground.
I think a lot of people are gonna love him. He was just over the top, so funny. He really committed, and like Fuzzy said, after viewing that part, it's like, I need an adult. I need an adult, please. Where's an adult?
It's like, we don't serve
Yeah,
pizza.
like where's the safe word, right? Yeah. The whole thing with him and the pizza, like as it ratchets up and he continues more and more with it, it gets more and more bombastic. It's like you hear his first joke and you're like, oh, okay. But then he comes back and then you're like, oh, he's going farther with this. And it just keeps going more and more and more. And you're just like, oh my God, this guy is not stopping. And like I was convinced that there was going to be something happening right after that because of that conversation. Like I was like, I don't know where this is going, but we're on a ride,
So
right? Like
while we were filming
that
it,
was no
because I don't like that I am in the stuff, not because I don't like watching myself or whatever. It takes away from what I want to do directing wise and visually. But while I was directing him and having to be on the other side of him for the 2 shot, uh he said, "Oh," he's like, "So how flamboyant do you want me to do this?" And I said, "Oh, sorry, my mistake. He's not gay. He wants to fuck pizza. Like he wants pizza in every orifice. It's not a homosexual thing. Like even like a closeted like late 70s whatever, like he's that guy in town or
yeah.
people are just like he's a little
Mhm.
funny. Like no. Like you want to fuck pizza. Like pizza's what gets you cuz as soon as he finds out that so he doesn't want to have sex with Bobby. Like there's
Mhm.
nothing about that. He's not like coding or
Right.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
He is at the end of it when he finds
No.
out he can't get pizza, he's pissed.
Yeah.
I was convinced that we were gonna get like a side shot of him
Of him
jamming
with
a
a pizza, just
down his
like
pants.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
Well, no.
Seriously.
I mean, maybe we
I
could go
was like,
back
this is
and
gonna go somewhere. I'm not sure. Oh man. Yeah. Well, if that character ever comes back in anything else, I think you've got to throw a folded pizza in there at some
well,
point with
I
him
will
as a relationship.
there were there was one thing we didn't film. So there's a few things we didn't film, but by the end of the day, like when you're making a no budget horror movie, low to no budget, which I love that indie movies are considered anything 10 million or under. And like we did jump from 5,959 to about 21,000 for this. But again, a lot of favors, a lot of production that would have cost more than 21,000 if we hadn't had people that were on board and passionate about it. But one scene we didn't film was a couple things like little interstitials of like showing the 45 album covers of like all the singles that Bobby's selling in the store. Like I would have liked to have done that. I would have shown some more of the cooking, like some of the things that they talk about, like the pork sickles you see a little bit, but like the balls or the eyes or the chicken breast of like cutting off the cheerleader's breast. There's some things that given more of a budget, more special effects would have done, but at the end of the day we're like, do we need it?
Sure.
Does it take away from the story? No, it could have been fun and definitely something we would have done. One of which was when Laddie says, "We'll cut off your dick and we'll start serving hot dogs." I was going to cut to Bobby seeing a woman, which was going to be played by my mom, who originally said she didn't want to do it. But then when she saw the guy eat the pork sickle, she said she would film this. And I was like, nope, it's already cut. Is her chomping on the head of a hot dog that just looks straight up like a dick. And then cutting back to Bobby being like, oh, like that. Okay, that we didn't do. But Kim's pizza thing is not far off from I think what we did do, but it is a little bit more coded, which is kind of the glory hole knife that comes out of the pizza box because it does like come up through and he's like, ooh, like what's coming up there? And it's the most phallic thing.
Yeah.
It's a knife. We tried it with a pizza cutter and it just didn't read
Yeah.
of it coming through. It didn't look
Mhm.
as menacing. And again, when you're filming a low budget to no budget, if you do something 3 takes, we did that like 5 times to try
It's a
to get
lot.
it right, and it was just like, we got to move on. Like we got to for this dumb gag, like we got to move on.
Yeah.
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 So,
So I oh, sorry. There was one thing that I did want to touch on, and we won't go into detail obviously because I don't want to spoil anything, but some of the some of the quotes throughout this movie had me just smirking. Like I could tell I had a big goofy grin on my face. Like when something like the whole "nick in your mouth" conversation came into play, I
mhm.
it's just like, oh my good good God, here we go. Like it just again, just like with the pizza guy, right? Like
Yeah.
when you guys go down one of these paths, you really go down this path. And I was like, I'm not sure where we're going with this, but I'm just gonna sit back and I want to see how this unfolds. I love the quotes in this in this
Feel
movie.
free
You
to
had
say
some
any
very
quotes,
good ones throughout.
because out of context, like you just saying Nick in your mouth, like anybody, if they were just like Nick in your mouth,
Sure.
that's one I got to be looking for. But when it happens as the character, there's no
Sure.
like side wink, there's no like break for it, and like sometimes they're just these earnest things that like, you know how like when you're with family members and they say something that they think is completely innocuous but has this weird like double entendre, and you're just like, do I call it out? No. So there's a lot of that. Feel free to say any quotes. The only thing I asked not to be spoiled was the end, whatever happens to a couple
Totally.
Yep.
characters, because that's the only thing I'm excited to see
Sure.
an audience, because I have heard from some people that have watched it of being like, oh, huh, okay. But yeah, quotes, quote away. I would love to hear what Nick in your mouth. If you'd have asked me what your favorite quote would have been, my favorite quote is, well, one of them is, besides everybody, well, you don't love pizza? Everybody loves pizza. Is
Is it the libs?
is it the what?
Is it women's libs?
Women? No.
That was one.
It's Jerry. Those bloody orgy having stinky hippies. The way he says that in the scene. So it's funny. Pizza. Both scenes incredibly scripted with very little improv. Even though Timmy and I have done improv together. Eileen, who plays Laddie, and we rehearsed a lot of those scenes because they're long shots and she does a lot of talking. Kudos to all the talking she does. That was done on purpose because I knew I was in it. I was like, well, which even came down to a joke where we were all lined up during the women's lib, the cheeseburger scene. Before we were setting up, Eileen was just like, okay, this is the scene where I do blah, 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 and Jerry's blah, 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 and Nick is blah, blah, blah. And Bobby, what is this? Is this one of those scenes where Bobby just sits there slack jawed, not saying anything, looking stupid? And I was just like, yup.
Okay, so
That's
one of
yeah.
my couple of my favorites are the banana scene with so Cypher's gonna go out for a second to get his audio to sync in.
Okay.
So the other one was when he misspelled service.
Served, yeah. Severed, and
Yes.
served, yeah.
Yes. So they're kind of because he's functional. Jerry is functional. He's completely functional until
He's
he
functional.
starts to go do something. You know what
So
I'm saying?
I will give Timmy the kudos. Timmy completely came up. So Timmy, very funny, very smart. I've worked with him a few times. We met in Chicago. He played Banky in Fleetwood Macbeth that we did. So he'd already played the Banquo kind of role that he plays as Jerry. Jerry was a little bit more spectrumy, which Timmy and I definitely talked about. And he's definitely more. I mean, him and Bobby love each other, and Jerry, I think, is way more talented than Bobby, but he loves Bobby so much, and he has zero ego about it. So anyway, to get to it we talked about everything of Jerry and like where the line is without going too far, without it being too just slapsticky or too goofy. I mean, he's named Jerry because Jerry Reed, the snowman, the bandit's best friend. I mean, there's a lot of Smokey and the Bandit in this, down to one point where I pull up in the Bandit Trans Am wearing a bandit cosplay. But again, that's the evolution of what Laddie has done to him of like, you are going to represent what is cool. And this is it. But Timmy was like, I had this idea to do something that would go throughout the whole script with a banana.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, all right, let me think about it, because I just don't want it to be this weird thing that is just there. But then I wrote the song Diddle My Fiddle, and I came up with, what would Jerry's song be in heaven? Well, what if he got a hold of a bunch of bananas and he got his dream of having as many bananas as he wanted? And so the way Timmy pitched it, and Timmy already had written when he pitched it to me before we filmed, he's like, what if the banana has this arc? And there's also, it's Jerry, he's trying to open it, but he can't.
Mm-hmm.
But then what he didn't tell me was at the end of the movie, when the culmination happens with the banana in the scene, where he does get it open, he didn't tell me what he was doing there completely. We just let it roll. And I am audibly laughing off camera. And like, we had to fudge that and do some ADR because I was dying off the screen. But so again, the banana stuff, 100% Timmy. If there's anything that wasn't in the script that ended up being a pivotal thing in the movie, that is it. But I just speak, it speaks volumes to, it's a ridiculous bit, but it's incredibly grounded, if that makes any sense. Or to me it did.
So obviously Jerry was my favorite, as you can tell. I don't know about anybody else, but Jerry was my favorite.
Jerry was very lovable.
Yeah.
He's, you know, despite his behavior and some of his just misunderstood nature, he's just lovable and he's very innocent. And I
Yeah.
think that's what draws people to that character, right? Is like, he's just so innocent amidst all of this other stuff that's happening. And it's like, it just, people gravitate right to him because of that.
I don't think Bobby is innocent.
No.
I'm saying top to bottom. I think
Yeah.
because Bobby is incredibly delusional, and I think uses Jerry and doesn't reciprocate the same amount of love.
Yeah.
And I think as it goes on and Bobby literally gets stripped by Laddie and gets rebuilt, Jerry stays the same.
Yeah.
Like, Jerry still is unwaveringly like in love with Bobby, and even to the point of just like, I get what's happening. He's so off base of what's happening, but like, he's like, you're gonna have to go solo. Like, I get it. Like, and Bobby's just like, oh man, you have no idea what is going on, buddy, do you?
See, my favorite was actually Bobby, because like I resonated with the character, and it's not just because you're here. It's not just because you're here. But it resonated with me because it felt like a character that, like, he got into this thing and he got wound up. Like, he got stuck in a thing, and he was trying to make the best of it initially, and he got caught up, and he let it take him over. And he did what a lot of us do, where it's like, when we get involved in something, sometimes we don't realize the ramifications, or we just get ahead of ourselves. We don't think about those ramifications.
I think it's the idea of losing yourself to get what you think your goal is or what you want to achieve. And I think there is as much autobiographical stuff as there is in All Your Friends Are Dead. I weirdly think both of these movies are very similar. I think Laddie is an opposite end of the spectrum from Eileen's character Sarah and All Your Friends Are Dead. This is going to be way nerdier than anybody's ever going to talk about my fucking filmography, so I'm going to do it here. My two film filmography, which it could be it. And I think Bobby is very similar to Matt Wilby on a different end of the spectrum. They both are delusional in their own ways. For spoilers of All Your Friends Are Dead. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because that is definitely something that I didn't know if I was going to be able to get across via my acting. I was very fortunate to have Eileen though, and Timmy, and like everybody else who's in the movie, make me look way better, and Andrew as Nick, and be extremely funny and very well grounded. But no, thank you, Fuzzy. Who's your favorite character? Say
La-
Bobby.
No, it's
Nice
only
one.
because Laddie, because, and this is going to probably sound crazy. I have similar. Well, I don't have similar ambitions, but it's like I've been the one
He
that has
does.
had those ambitions at like my employer, and it's like you're going to listen to this idea. Oh, you're not going to listen. All right, I'll find a way to make you listen because I'll just go ahead and do it myself, kind of thing. But that's the only part. Well, not the only part. Also the sarcasm, because I can sometimes be sarcastic with I've been sarcastic with customers at times, like the lady that ate all the food and then wanted a refund. But you
Surly
ate it all.
Shirley. Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
but Laddie is. So the other thing that I love to do, and I'm going to try to do in every movie that I make, is the narrative telling of the phrase "King should have turned mountain." And again, it's kind of what you're saying, Silent Cipher, is to the perception of to what you are and what you are in the cog of all of it and what you could be and how much you're going to lose yourself or change and blah blah blah. But Laddie is easily the smartest. I mean, Bobby says it. He's like, she's smart, she's pretty, she's like, she's everything. And they're like, and he's like, haha, but she's a woman. And it's like, if Laddie would have gotten an inch, maybe she's so fucking psycho, a sociopath as well, psychopath and sociopath, that she was always going to do something extreme. But maybe if she had gotten just a little bit of respect and a little bit of decision making, she wouldn't had to have swung so drastically the pendulum in the other way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also wonder if the crate scene, if that wasn't all a plan. Like, so
she seems like a character that no matter what, even if there had been some of that positive reinforcement over the time of her childhood and stuff, feels like she has a villain arc no matter what. She feels she is too smart. She is too smart, and I think that's a problem. Is you often find people that are very smart get themselves in trouble and do these things because they don't think they can be touched. They think they can get away with it. They think that it's below them to get caught. It's beneath them.
I think she is more of a sociopath than a psychopath.
Okay.
The only reason I say this is because, basically Dad didn't give her really any attention. It was all about Jerry, of course, because Jerry had special needs. But at the same time,
Jerry, that's another one of my favorite lines. Jerry, you got limited capabilities.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
But she had an understanding of she did have emotions and stuff like that. You did see the anger in her and everything like that, which you wouldn't see in a psychopath. Psychopaths not angry; they're more curious than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I see her really as getting back at her father. I mean, she did the ultimate thing of getting back at him without actually doing it. It was really Bobby that kind of did it, by accident. But, she was very excited that it happened. She was more than happy with Bobby. And then she kind of noticed Bobby in that manner. Like, Bobby could escalate me to a better platform. He's not just a tool. He could actually be beneficial to me.
But she could still play the puppet master behind the scenes.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, she's smart. She's very capable of being manipulative.
He's a paper doll.
Yeah. And she had a lot of follow through. That was her biggest.
Yes.
Because she had no problems killing people, whereas Bobby he struggled with that at first.
Yeah, I actually don't spoil a slight spoiler. I don't think Bobby kills anyone in the movie. Like, I mean, obviously accomplice, but I don't
Mhm.
think he physically is the person who executes any of them directly.
Yeah, Laddie's mainly the one in the pig mask.
Yep.
So Laddie's supposed to be the only one in the pig mask, but
Yeah.
Ricky, when we don't subject Eileen to wearing that very, very sweaty gas mask,
Mhm.
wore it. But I was trying to have her. I mean, obviously, her and I do not have the same physical frame,
Yeah.
but it's supposed to be her. But it's kind of
Mhm.
like whenever they reveal who the killer is at the end of Scream,
Mhm.
you're like, there's no fucking way that person was Ghostface, like in any of
Yeah.
the scenes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Bobby's
Yeah.
only hand in it was just luring them in or keeping them entertained
Yeah.
while
Yep.
they were getting chopped up
Well,
or
he was
Mhm.
more of the I guess if you could say it, he was more of the charismatic draw between the two of them,
Mhm.
right?
yeah.
He was the one that got them out of their shell and got them to like come to that situation. Because if you talk to her specifically and she was like, "Hey,
Mhm.
come out here to the back, I got something to show you," I don't think most people would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna follow you." Like Bobby has more of a charisma to him
Come on
where he could just
downstairs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like if he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna sing a song to you," they'd be like, "Oh, sweet, let's go." You know, like it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
Um,
a Pied Piper element.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
there is. Yeah.
So, in reference, we know the release is not going to be specifically mentioned until, but can we at least? Is it going to be out more towards Lord Kaufman, or is it going to be down here?
Where is down here?
So basically, well, I mean, are you in Los Angeles?
No. I'm Northern Kentucky, very close to
Okay.
Cincinnati.
So
Oh, nice.
basically, that would be down here,
Okay.
Kentucky, or is it going to be where Lloyd is?
It is the I can say that the premiere will be down here, but that there should be, as long as all plans go accordingly, a good amount of opportunities to
Mhm.
see it in some theaters across the United States throughout the next year.
Okay.
Sweet.
Nice.
So,
And that should be part of. I think that will be part of the announcement once the premiere gets announced, because the packaging of what the premiere is going to be is going to be kind of the kickoff and beta of what the thing is going to be. I hate talking in vague terms, but I
Mhm.
literally was just
Yeah.
told, it was just like, "Hey, do you mind not publicly saying anything
yeah,
until after
yeah,
Christmas?"
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
"I'd really like to." And they're like, "Yeah, we know."
No,
But
that's
yeah,
you
So,
gotta
premiere
play the game,
premiere
man.
will be in our vicinity,
okay.
and then there will be a ton of, I think, good opportunities
Mhm.
for people, which I highly suggest. It's how I like watching anything, especially horror comedy,
Mhm.
is in the theater with
Mhm.
a group of kind of like not like completely like-minded individuals, because I'd also be happy to see a couple people get walked. Like if at the
Mhm.
beginning when the giant turd just hits, like if that walks anybody, like I'm gonna be like, that's fine.
Um,
Um,
so when we're also talking about everything as far as when it's going to be released and everything, as far as the streaming, is he going to put it on the Trauma streaming service, or is he also going to put it on other streaming services?
My guess is with that, as far as any of the conversations that I had, was it will have a life out and about, festivals, this kind of vague thing that I'm talking about that's going to happen
Mhm.
over in 2025. And then
Mhm.
probably after a year, it will get a Trauma Now release. And
Okay.
there'll be some like fanfare like there was for like Eating Miss Campbell or any
Mhm.
of the other trauma movies that have come out as of late. And then I was told they would then be looking probably after maybe like a year of that, after there's some drummed up interest of people watching on Troma now, that they will then put together their own physical release with some new special features and stuff, with the movie looking and sounding the best that it can. If anybody else picked it up, I would imagine it would probably have to be a pretty lucrative deal between Troma and said vested interest. Like if someone came up to them, like say, for example, like a Shudder or something, or a Screambox, which again, I don't know if that necessarily would jive as well, because of the I think dark comedy is kind of where someone watched it recently and shot me a message and said, this feels like a Christopher Guest John Waters movie. And I was like, huh. I was like, that is a huge compliment, which I'm not just like, yes, of course it is. Like, yes. But I was like, yeah. I was like, I like that. Like a Christopher Guest John Waters movie. It's a good way to like set the tone of possibly what it is. Because there's nothing kind of in the Troma filmography, because I don't think it's nearly as gross out as like Poultrygeist or even like Cannibal the Musical.
No.
I think it's a little bit more grounded with character and story and narrative. Again, not saying better, just what I have in me to make. But so yeah, if anybody else did pick it up, it would probably only be from some sort of like lottery circumstance where they saw dollar signs, and then Troma saw enough dollar signs, again, not in a bad pejorative way of saying this,
Yeah.
that it was beneficial for them to license it or to sell off a chunk of it.
Well, I mean, honestly, I've seen on Tubi, of course, Toxic Avenger, but I've also seen a couple more on Tubi.
Oh,
Um,
of Troma movies.
yeah, of Troma movies. So, I wouldn't be surprised. Of all of the most recent Troma films I've seen, I could see this at least on Tubi. You know, if it was outside, if he was shopping it around and stuff like that. I could honestly see it on another streaming service besides Troma now. If
I'd be
anybody
happy. I'd be happy to see it on a Pluto, a Tubi. Those are such interesting apps that whenever anybody's asking, like, where can I see it? And I mentioned that there are still a good amount of people that aren't aware of Pluto or Tubi. And then it's kind of like giving a Christmas present to somebody, because they're just like, hey, you can watch, because most people are people my age who don't have a hang up with the commercials. I actually sometimes like the commercials. Some movies, the commercials come in weird areas. I don't love that as much, because they sometimes have the gosh, I'm trying to think of one. I think it's 10 to Midnight, Charles Bronson movie with Canon Films. They were definitely showing like the TV edit of like a Showtime edit or an old HBO or Cinemax, and it had commercial breaks cut into it, but they weren't putting the commercials in those slots. And they were just like abruptly like popping on. I was just like, all right. But Pluto and Tubi, what a cool thing. You almost can find anything you want to watch, especially
Yes.
in the horror, like
Mhm.
B-level movie horror world.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So I just want to plug Troma Now, by the way. So if you go to so it's watch.troma. Let me get this address right. Watch.troma.com. It's not expensive to subscribe per month, and I believe they give a yearly subscription as well at a discount. So if you guys want to see some Troma, it's all Troma.
And you get a
Uncle
free month's trial.
Uncle Lloyd is so happy with you right now. Which I will say this is going to be the story I tell anywhere I'm with Sweetmeats, doing a Q&A or doing an introduction for the movie. One of my favorite things is I keep on calling him, and they actually had a friendship, was I called Lloyd the Stan Lee of B movies or D movies.
Mhm.
Having Lloyd's or Mr. Kaufman's phone number in my phone and a picture saved is crazy for me. But my favorite thing that he does, he knows how phones work. He understands technology. I only say that as a preface that when he calls, so his name and his photo in my phone appears. He knows that.
Mhm.
Every phone call starts off with, I'm like, hey, Lloyd. And he goes, Lloyd Kaufman here, president of Trauma Entertainment, creator of the Toxic Avenger. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, who are you saying it is? But he does it every fucking time. And
That's amazing.
I love it. It cracks me up.
That
And
is,
I will
that is
say,
too good.
Lloyd is a very generous man with his time and his support. He is very always excited to find new talent, whether
Mhm.
other people believe it's talent or trauma talent, because
Mhm.
the thing he wants the most, and this isn't for it to be like part of his epitaph of his funeral, but he always will say, he's like, this could be the next James Gunn, this could be the next Matt and Trey, this could be the next Eli Roth, this could be, and he started with us, they started with Trauma. And he's not like saying that as like and I found you and you know, like he's just genuinely excited
Yeah.
to give filmmakers a shot. And for my son's just turned 1 on Sunday or Saturday, and last year when they were born, I got a package in the mail and I opened it and it was a box from Tiffany's.
Mhm.
And I was just like, what's this? Like someone got a present from Tiffany's and then wrapped a Christmas gift in the Tiffany box, and it's like a gag gift. And I opened it up and it was two silver spoons
Wow.
from Tiffany's, and it was a
Wow.
card from Tiffany's engraved. It said, to your boys from Uncle Lloyd. And I was just like, I
That's
don't know.
awesome.
At that point, I had not met him. And I was just like, this is amazing. He had not seen the movie. We had just wrapped filming. And I was just like, what a like, I'm easily also won over. Like anybody who like shows any sign of appreciation or says thank you or whatever, like that means the world to me.
Yeah.
We're done
So-
blowing Lloyd. Fuck Lloyd.
So I'm gonna say this about Lloyd before we decide to move on. So so he came to the Mahoning Drive-In, which is in Pennsylvania, if anybody knows. And he was there, and while everybody else his age, he's well beyond my years.
Mm-hmm.
He was still there. He still gave hugs. He still stood next to you.
He will kiss every baby. He will shake every hand, and he doesn't charge for his autograph. But
No,
man,
he did not charge once.
Does that man fucking know his business? I watched him at a horror convention, and I watched his line was the biggest line that anybody had, and he was going to sign until everybody got their autograph. But you know what everybody in that line did? Doesn't matter how many copies of whatever Trauma on their table has all of their filmography laid out. I watched people, because they were getting to meet Lloyd in person. Multiple people out of the little sampling I saw said, I already have 3 copies of this, but I want another one to have Lloyd sign, because he signs anything for free. So he was they sold so much merchandise. But again, nobody, if you wanted to meet Lloyd, you met Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like he's sat there and he talked to you too while you were getting a photo with him. He's like, because I gave him a little pin, because I'm a teacher, and I gave him a little pin that was a red shirt and it had on there, teachers are real. And he just went on about, I have family members that are teachers. Teachers are everything. Y'all need to be making more money. And he lost the moment that we were in, that he was supposed to be taking a picture and that he had a long line. That disappeared for him.
Oh, yeah.
He just wanted to talk about that.
He sounds like
Easily.
someone who's just enjoying his time. Like he's having
Exactly.
fun, which is awesome. Like
Yeah.
so many people get wrapped up, but it sounds like he enjoys it. He enjoys
Yeah.
being there and having those conversations.
Yeah, he is genuinely honored, excited, and happy that someone wants to meet him and
Mhm.
talk to him that it's not a politician, like shake your hand and like get your photo. All right, next person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see so many after being in the industry and going to the conventions and going to the signings, they get jaded after a while. They get in this thing where, okay, how many do I have to sign? Matthew Lillard's the same way as Lloyd Kaufman. He'll sign everything. He's very speedy. I have his autograph somewhere. But he'll sign until the last person, not until the last person in line has been met and autograph and hug and everything. You know.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's some.
there's that amazing video of Lillard with the little girl where he
Mhm.
does the Shaggy voice.
Yeah.
It melts your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's some out there, and then there's some that it's
Let's
like,
name some
okay, you got
pricks.
your 30 seconds. Yeah, I got your 30 seconds. I want my money.
Let's
Let's
burn
move
some
on.
bridges. Oh,
No.
I was going to conventions since I was like 2 years old. I grew
Mhm.
up in the convention circuit where they didn't charge you for their autograph. They only charged you if you bought something from them.
Mm.
Okay.
And so I remember the first time, and this isn't a besmirch on him. Didn't meet him enough to know his character, but Steve Reeves, who played Hercules, he
Mhm.
was the first one at a convention, and I might have been like 7 or something. So this is like 92, maybe 95, maybe I was 10. And it was a Chicago Ray Courts convention, if that means anything to anybody. And he was charging to get your photo with him. And he had a guy there with a Polaroid camera, and it was $10. And again, this is like
Mhm.
95. And my dad's like, I'm not fucking paying $10 to get my picture with that old man. And like was just like getting ready to leave. And then my dad like marched back and he's like, well, he could die in like a week. He's pretty old.
Oh,
And he paid the $10. And he did. He died like 2 months later or something. But
wow.
that was the first like I
Oh.
distinctively remember being like, oh, and the convention world is changing a little bit. Or like someone like an Adam
Mhm.
West, which spoiler of what might
Yeah.
be our next feature film, is heavily influenced with my time with Adam West over the years.
Mhm.
But it was awesome to see. He could see, I mean, he fought for them to get residuals on Batman. And that's why any
Mm.
of the 60s Batman stuff, like for the television, doesn't look like Adam because they didn't want to pay him anymore. Uh, but he at conventions, if anybody's discussing autographs, if you want to look at Adam West's autograph from the 60s to when he died, he purposely changed it to make people wonder if it was a fake or a real.
Wow.
Huh.
And I watched him consciously do it.
So I don't know if Adam West talked about this, but I think I would have been mad at this one. So apparently they were actually going to continue Batman, the television series, but somebody from the previous studio, I think it was NBC or whatever, I can't remember which one, but had one of the executives got a memo or didn't get the memo saying that another one had purchased it. So he told everybody to throw out all the sets.
Yeah, ABC.
And that's how it ended.
Yeah.
It's not NBC because the monkeys are on NBC
Yeah.
and they
I can't remember
rivaled.
which one it was.
But I think it's ABC. It could be
It
CBS.
might have been.
But yes, yeah. They destroyed the Batcave,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
and
And
Hurts.
that's why it got canceled.
how I mean, you watched that third season of Batman,
Mhm.
and like I don't know what a fourth season would have been, but I
But
mean, when you have Lord and
but
Lady Fog in the third season in the
I
English
know,
episode, ooh,
but we never know because they could have had different writers.
sure.
They we
But
we
we
don't know
did
what
get Legends of the Superheroes
yes.
in the
Yeah.
70s. So if that is any indication of what it could have been if like Batman had never gone
Mhm.
off the air. And like I
Yeah.
like some of Legends of the Superheroes, but then there's that roast That's
Mhm.
after. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? If you don't, I think it's on
Sorry.
YouTube.
Okay.
It's awesome. There's
Yeah.
Solomon Grundy's in it. There's
Okay.
Black Canary. Frank Gorshin is back
Okay.
as the Riddler, which is
Mhm.
awesome seeing like a 40-year-old man wear complete spandex.
Mhm. Yeah. See, I would have been pretty mad at that one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm sure you have a lot of stories. So
You're
Fuzzy,
like,
where
and we
you
don't
at?
have a lot of time.
I know. I'm like, Fuzzy, where are you at?
Well, I do have a couple of quick questions, and this is for stuff in the near future because I love this film, enjoyed it.
Thank you. That means a
Will
lot. I'm glad. I have waited a long time because we filmed it over a year ago, and I'm very excited to like do this, talk to people who've watched it. And again, I don't need everybody to love it. I'm looking just as looking forward to seeing some letterbox reviews that are just like, what the fuck? Like that poster, that metal poster of like the pig mask hanging, like with the spatula and the knife, and then we get this. Like, what the fuck was that?
I just want to say this of all the reviews you will come across, uh, Fuzzy. I do want to say that most of the quirky stuff, most of the B movie stuff that I watch, he usually just goes upstairs. He's like 5 minutes in, he goes upstairs. For him to say he absolutely loved this,
Ringing endorsement.
that yeah, that's a ringing endorsement.
That would have been my
Go ahead,
wife.
Fuzzy.
Like my wife likes to watch. My wife was reprising her role of pregnant woman. She was pregnant with the twins. She is the one getting the soda with Laddie at the beginning,
Mhm.
Allie, and her mom is Surly Shirley, and who had never acted. And when I wrote that and I handed it to her, I was like, "You think you would want to do this?" And she's like, "Maybe." She looked at it. She's like, "Is there any reason why you think I would be a bad person, like a bad customer named Surly Shirley?" I was like, "I don't know.
No.
There's something about you. Like I think that." But anyway, she did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
But especially like I said, I mean, low to no budget movie. But yeah, my wife is someone that if I was taking a chance on something that looked like the movie we made, because there is, I mean, there's a Scotch tape look to it. She'd be like, "What's this?" And then, like I said, as soon as probably the disembowelment at the beginning, my wife had been like, I mean, my wife will watch some gory stuff, but she probably had been like, "It looks like this, and they're doing that. I'm out." So thank you for.
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
cut you off. You were going to ask a
Oh no.
question. My
Oh
apologies.
no. Yeah. Just real quick. Do you already have in mind Sweet Meats 2?
Funny you should mention that. So I don't get to decide that with what the deal we made. Not that Trauma has anything in the chamber, but Trauma ultimately, because they own the movie in perpetuity, they own it forever. Like All Your Friends Are Dead, we did a limited release contract with SRS Cinemas, and they did a boutique Blu-ray of it. I'm looking at it now. It's great packaging, looks great, and big fan of it. But we get the rights back to All Your Friends Are Dead after 2.5 years, after 3 years. Trauma will always own Sweetmeats, which is cool because on the Wikipedia page it says like upcoming movies and it lists Sweetmeats like TBA, which it's cool to be on a wiki page for that and be part of their history. I don't. There's my business partner Nikians. He's kind of like, man, I don't want to like completely outright sell anything of our stuff ever again. So if we could find a way not to, we own 30% of it. Which, unless the movie becomes Wicked, we're not going to see any profits from it. We got paid for the movie, and that's that. But what that also means is, stupidly, the only thing that I feel like I made a mistake on the contract is, with my knowledge of Kevin Smith, he kept the rights to Jay and Silent Bob. I wish I would have put in the contract the rights to Bobby Sweet and music, which I didn't. Not that I have anything planned for it, but I just I wish I would have owned the rights to the characters. That being said, writing partner and friend of mine, Eric Hunter, who's a horror novelist of his own. He just released his first of a horror novel called. It's going to be a series called Grave Garden.
Mhm.
All That in a Bag of Chip is the name of the first book. It's very goosebumpy, but not completely YA. Like maybe more young adult, but not teenager.
Hmm.
But I said to him, I was like, the only way we could make a sequel is if Troma completely signed off on it. But I was like, as a writing exercise, would you want to take just the visual of the pig mask poster from Sadis Art Design and try to write the most scary version of that within the Sweetmeats universe? And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I think I would. So we've already written half a script that is a sequel to Sweetmeats within the universe,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Nice.
where there's plenty of nods and things. It's not a direct continuation of any one character specifically, but it's more horror tone. There's definitely
Okay.
a dark comedic element to it, but it is definitely more I would say The Menu meets Hostel.
Okay.
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 Hmm.
Okay. I don't know if anybody's seen the menu, but I did.
Yes. Yeah. We just
And
watched
I
that
saw
a couple months
Hostel.
ago. I gotcha.
So I'm good.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
I will say this. In reference to Trauma buying the rights. If anybody's heard recently, Dogma 2 is already being written because somebody purchased the rights back from Weinstein and they donated it back to Kevin Smith.
Wow, I didn't know the
Hmm.
whole
Yeah.
donation story. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're basically donating back. Of course, they're getting a cut. They're not going to not get a
Sure.
cut.
As they
Yeah.
should.
But he
Yeah.
has rights now to Dogma to make a Dogma 2. So that's how that happens. Somebody just was like, he's like, wait a minute, I'm not going to give you millions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
for something, that should have been mine in the first place.
Yeah.
And one of the companies decided, hey, we really want to see this. So they bought it from Weinstein. And I mean, the man probably is having money problems. I know his brother is.
Well,
So,
Yeah.
that's the interesting thing about that whole situation is that Kevin kept coming back to them trying to present like, how about this much? What if I give you this much? And they got shot down over and over and over again, just time and time again. And this is all the while money troubles probably are in existence and have been. So it had to have been a decent sweetheart of a deal to get it away from him because it seemed like he
I
was very eager to hold on to it.
I don't
Um,
I don't think actually it was any sweeter of a deal than they could have given to Kevin. I think it
think
was
maybe it's
just
just because it
about
wasn't Kevin.
Yeah.
I think just from my limited knowledge of Dogma, one of my favorite documentaries is I'm blanking on the name of it, but it is not on the Dogma box set, which has been out of print and hard to get for a long time. That's why you keep
Yeah.
your physical media if you really want to have it.
Yeah.
But it's a documentary that is on oh my gosh, why am I blanking on Brian Johnson's clown movie?
Oh, you mean
Oh,
Clown Motel?
no.
No, not that one.
Vulgar.
Vulgar,
Vulgar.
yes.
Oh
Thank
yes,
you.
There's a
Yeah.
documentary that's on Vulgar, which is
Mm.
about the making of Dogma,
Mhm.
and it's fantastic. So that's one reason to get Vulgar. If you haven't seen the movie, Vulgar's a great watch.
Mhm.
And it's said that I think it's Brian Johnson's only directed written film. But the documentary about Dogma is fantastic on it.
Mhm.
And one of the things is because Lionsgate distributed it,
Mhm.
I don't know that the Weinsteins held full ownership over Dogma. So I think out of all of Kevin's properties, that probably would have been the easiest one to buy. Because I know Mallrats is still Universal.
Yeah.
And there's the issues with trying to make a sequel / TV series Netflix series or whatever with that. But I wonder if, for the same reasons of like why we haven't seen a reprint of the Dogma DVD or Blu-ray, if it's because the Weinstein Company / Miramax didn't really own as much of it anymore. Which if Weinstein, I don't know the ins and outs. If Weinstein Company didn't take their whole Miramax catalog with them, which I can't believe Disney would have just been like, yeah, take all of these years of things you've done with Disney. Probably there was a part of them that still owned it with Miramax and the distribution alliance gate that was probably happy to have a movie like Dogma off there. Like, I bet you could buy Striptease because there's another Miramax movie.
Oh, no. Disney loves Kevin Smith. Disney absolutely loves Kevin Smith.
I know they did Clerks the animated series.
Yeah.
Which, again, there's supposed to be a Clerks animated series movie out for a long time, so.
Well, I think that's about the animation in general with that. But, because it's going to take a longer time than doing a live action. But, Disney loves him, because of all the Marvel stuff he's done and stuff like that.
Lloyd and Kevin have a relationship with Smodcastle Cinemas. But if anybody here, anybody listening, wants to tweet Kevin, because I know he has a copy of it, and I know Jordan, Muse's wife, has sent him a link to it. If you want to tweet him or X him, whatever it is, and just say, hey, within the next year while Sweetmeats is making around, if you would love to host a screening of it at Smodcastle Cinemas, there's a lot of people that would love to see you host a Q&A and have Ricky Glore there to fulfill a childhood dream of having you host one of his movies at his theater. I would love that.
I think we know. I think we know a lot of people who could message that. We could start a petition.
Just
right?
spam him. Yeah. Look, I don't want it just at Smodcastle Cinemas because that could actually. There's probably a good chance that will end up happening with this thing, the vague thing that I'm talking about happening over the year. But I want to be there and have the man introduce the movie and lead the Q&A. I've met Kevin a handful of times, and he is a sweetheart. But that would be
awesome.
Well, he has his film festival that he shows movies at all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So that wouldn't be out of sorts.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's hosted some trauma events there, and he's led some talkbacks with Lloyd. So yes,
let's see what we can do.
let's see what
put that out into speak it into existence.
I mean, we've met him once. Well, technically twice. It was the same cruise. But we interacted with him twice, me and Fuzzy. So I think we got all the jitters out, right, Fuzzy?
Yeah. He surprised us off the elevator.
Yeah, we're not that far from Smodcast Cinemas. It's about less than 2 hours away.
Oh, okay.
So we can actually drive down there when he has an event where he's going to be at.
So when you say down here, you meant left to right, west coast to east coast?
No, I meant somewhere outside of Los
Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought.
New Jersey. Nick Greystone of Demon Scar, who and the band who gets killed at the end. He is one of the producers. Nick is such an awesome, great guy. He and his daughter went to the Silent Bob Mess last week, and he gave Kevin another. I know this is not Kevin's first copy of getting Sweetmeats Blu-ray in his hand. He's like, hey, I just want to give you this new movie, and he's just like, Jesus. He's like, yeah. He's like, I keep on hearing about this. I'm just like, yeah, keep on hearing about it.
Yeah, so let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions, Fuzzy, before you have to
I'm an open book. It can be the weirdest question, could be an innocuous question. I will
Fuzzy's
answer
having
anything.
Too much fun. I think Fuzzy's having too much fun. He doesn't want to go to the gaming thing now.
Well, I do have to get over there because I have to help out with the games coming out this week and stuff. But um, even if you have to go off script as far as a sequel or follow up to Sweetmeats, that would be awesome. Hoping this does well, that Trauma, brings you guys back in to do a sequel. That would be pretty awesome. And maybe the Kevin Hart, Kevin Smith thing
Well, look, I mean, if
happens.
Kevin Hart wants to show the movie too, that's an audience.
That would be
I mean,
something.
yeah, that I happily, his playing arenas and all that. I happily dip into the Kevin Hart world. But yeah, no, if it's one of those things. If the Sweetmeats sequel, if Troma is not interested,
Mhm.
it is enough of an idea, and there are enough things that would be touchstones within the Sweetmeats world to make it a, like I said, in-universe sequel. But even if they decided they didn't want to, and we decided we still wanted to make it ourselves, there are small enough things that we could take out that now that you know this, you could watch it and still be like, yeah, it's a Sweetmeats sequel.
Well, that's what they did with Evil Dead to make Evil Dead 2. That's why
Yeah.
the ending was changed in Evil Dead 2, you know. So I can see that.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing, any advice for upcoming writers or directors or producers as far as taking their concept to production, or any things that have helped you, whether it's your experience in comedy or anything along those lines that have helped you, you know, get things rolling or to move things forward. What would you send out as advice?
Stop emailing me or messaging me if I want to make your script. Not that it happens in abundance of time, and I'm not saying that meanly. I don't want to make your movie. Same as Lloyd said to me, like, make your own damn movie. Me having ideas is I don't have any issues with that. It's executing them, and as my friend Eric Hunter and I talked about with writing, getting past the 30-page mark, writing wise, is the biggest hurdle. I have so many things that get up to 20 to 30 pages and then peter out. I have a million post-it notes or notes in my phone of an idea of 2 lines and a title. I love coming up with titles, so much so that my friend Eric Hunter is just like, why? Like, why do you have a title? I'm like, you know what? Because if I see the title, for me,
Mhm.
the movie comes after and I can visualize it or whatever. So even if it's a dumb title, Sweetmeats. My partner, Nick Hyans, he's like, I don't want to call this Sweetmeats. He's like, can we call this anything else? He's like, Sweetmeats, it sounds like a gay porn. Like, I don't want to. But funny enough, the first time I met Lloyd said the phrase Sweetmeats 50 times, no fooling. And I turned to Nick and I was like, see, the old man can remember the title that rhymes. Like, this is gonna serve us. This is gonna serve. I also wanted to go something from Long, All Your Friends Are Dead, which fuck that year when All Your Friends Are Dead, there was like 6 other movies and other properties that came out that had super similar titles. And I was just like, oh. But anyway, I went something shorter. But the advice is, the reason I say don't send me things, I don't like reading. I love watching things. I have a hard time reading things of my own. I also have a hard time reading something of somebody's that you're just like, do you want to direct this? I'm like, no, I don't want to direct this. It's incredibly hard and takes a lot of time to do it. Like, unless I'm hired and you're like, we will pay you X amount to do it. Then I'm like, well, then it's a job, and I'll find a way to get connected to it and why I want to do it and how I will do it. As long as the situation were that way, that I was given the permission to do what I want to do with someone else's property. What I always say is, I just got an email recently where the guy's like, hey, just watch trailer for Sweetmeats online, because my information's readily out there on the internet. You can always find my email somewhere. Emailed me and said, just watch trailer for Sweetmeats. I have this script. It's a 1 location slasher, pretty gory, very on the on par with like Terrifier series. And I was just like, great pitch. Yeah, you mentioned a thing that just did very well independently. Cool. I don't want to read your script. But what I wrote back was, but you should totally make that thing. It sounds like you got one location, shouldn't cost that much money. We all got these, which are better cameras than most have had in the last 50 years. The thing anybody asked me, what should you spend money on? Audio, because bad audio is not a choice. Bad visuals could be an artistic decision. Shitty audio, all your friends are dead. Not a choice. It's just bad for whatever reasons. So spend money on audio, and then the next thing spend your money on actors. And make sure you like the actors that you're working with and that you're getting. Now, don't overspend for a name, because that's a big mistake too, where you're just like, well, I'll get Felicia. Again, my opinion. Not trying to take money or food out of Felicia Rose's mouth, but she doesn't need to be in every Indiegogo thing that pops up to get your movie made. Get some people at a local, like Kevin Smith did with Clerks. Hold auditions at a local theater, community theater, or a high school, and do it that way. Find a local talent agency. That's what I've done recently in Cincinnati, and they've sent over audition videos, and they don't ask for a percentage. And then the other thing is, get the people that do things that you don't know how to do. Like if there's someone who does makeup and they're willing to I mean, there's always that thing of like, oh, you're doing it for experience. That's a bad way to sell it. But if you're like, hey, there's this thing I really want to do, I'm organizing it, so it shouldn't take that much time, and I'm really passionate about it. If you're the carnival barker for your own thing and you're going to make it happen, man, there will be some people that fall through the cracks. Like Clerks is a great story of filming at night, and people were supposed to show up, and Walt Flanagan plays 20 fucking roles. Like that will happen, but that adds to the charm a lot of times. Other thing I found out, asking for locations and asking for things, always be upfront. Tell them what you're doing, because more often or not, I don't like the phrase, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I completely disagree with that, but that's just me and my guilt and makeup. Be upfront. Like the guy whose restaurant we used. When we sat down to talk to him about filming longer than we were going to film for open house, because originally it was just to meet commercials in a restaurant, nothing like killing or anything or language really. I was like, okay, well, I want to tell you about the movie. And I told him, and I was like, it's maybe a little bit of a feel of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Motel Hell. Obviously doesn't reach those heights, but that's kind of what we're going for. And he's just like, oh yeah. And it turns out he was a huge horror fan. Turns out he also played in a band. Turns out he also ended up being one of the musicians. He is the bass player in the music video segments. And that is people that he's played with. Like it ended up just snowballing. So besides this restaurant that we filmed in for 8 days straight, he was incredibly supportive and ended up helping out in ways that we never expected. So ask people for locations and things and tell them you'll leave it cleaner than they left it. And promise them and make sure that you're not going to do anything that'll destroy it or hurt anybody, make them lose their liquor license or insurance. Most often or not, people are just like, even though you're not lying and saying you're a Hollywood thing or whatever, or you might not have any budget, they'll be excited to be like, oh, you guys are making a movie? Like you guys are doing that? Oh my God. Yeah, we'd love, I mean, sometimes they'll be like, can my cousin Ray be in the movie or something like that? Have a scene like that. We filmed, that was 1 day with all those extras. Whether it was the basement, it was 2 days. Basement stuff and the restaurant with all the people, 2 days worth of filming. All those people came out, were super excited to be in the movie. So yeah, my advice is do it. Like it's one of the reasons why we made All Your Friends Are Dead is that Nick Hyance and I were sitting around and we're just like, all right, we did sketch comedy together. We've done short films. If it was 20 years from now, what regrets would we have? And I was like, man, you know what? One regret is if we just never attempted to make a feature length movie. And so we did it. And so, yeah, that's my advice is, number one advice beyond all that stuff. Take that all in there. Watch Mark Duplass's South by Southwest speech about the cavalry not coming. That is a great distillation of everything I just said.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for-
Fuzzy asked that question only because he knows he has to help me make a movie.
Yeah, I mean you got it. But that's the thing is you got to have your tribe and you got to have that central person who is the most excited and unwavering of just like this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. So like don't be that person that's just like, well, I got this movie I want to make, but it's going to cost at least $1 million. And it takes place on a spaceship. It's like, well, you don't have a movie. You have maybe a book, and even those are even harder to write. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm not saying like Hyance and I went to this seminar at a convention, which is about budgeting, making no budget, low budget indie movies. And we were like, this would be interesting to sit in here and see what they say. Their whole thing was, for me, the antithesis of indie movies was like, okay, if you have access to a warehouse, I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to do the Kevin Smith thing. Use what you know, blah, 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 production value. And they're like, find all the things that you have access to and write a script around that. And then put in as little money as possible and you should be able to sell it for a huge ass profit. And I was like, well, that's not why you make indie movies. Like, it's a terrible reason to put in this much time and effort.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they're probably thinking about the Skin and Max movies that used to air.
And there were plenty of those. I know a couple. It's so weird. The Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, Kentucky, just Kentucky in general, Tennessee. There is, gosh, like, and I'm probably friends with all of friends, Facebook friends, online friends. Probably have never met them, but that come from Kentucky. There's like 20 of them, and there are a couple who have been doing these Indiegogo horror movies where they'll get between $5 and $20,000, $30,000, and a big thing of their pushes are just like, and we have this girl that is half naked who you'll see naked in the movie. We have this girl, and it's the same fucking cast across the board. Which again, I'm not trying to knock food out of anybody's mouth or money or celebrity, but there's a few of those filmmakers that have made a handful of those movies who I now have seen be like, but I want to make something different. I don't want to be known as the person that just makes the this, this, and this. And I'm just like, it's a monkey paw situation. It's a little bit Faustian, like if that's what you're known for. So and again, not shitting on the genre. Now, Sweetmeats is more of a comedy than All Your Friends Are Dead, but All Your Friends Are Dead is pretty much of a dramedy comedy influenced by the 90s independent films that I grew up on. But the next movie we make, unless it's the sequel to Sweetmeats, good chance isn't going to be horror. Not because I don't want to do horror. It's just the next story that I'm the most passionate about doing, I don't think is going to be horror. There could be some horrific things, but I don't know, unless, like I said, it is the sequel to Sweetmeats or this other horror musical idea that is being kicked around. I don't think it's going to be that. And when you're an indie filmmaker, like, it goes back to that seminar thing we were at. Why not make the thing you want to make? No one's going to see it anyway. And if you're lucky, someone will, they will see it on a Tubi, on a Pluto, at a festival, or you're lucky enough to get Troma, because that's what Lloyd said. That was the number one thing that sold us on making a deal with Troma. And we hadn't even talked about this. I was like, he said, the biggest thing I can offer is not a lot of money, but Troma is invited to every horror convention and film festival in the United States. I can guarantee people will see your movie because they're always saying, is there anything you have to show? And like Lloyd was just honored in Vegas. And during his interview with that, he said, we got new and exciting things like this movie Sweetmeats by comedian Ricky Glore coming out. And I got a Google alert that my name was dropped in this interview. And like, there's no more than that. But I was just like, oh, that's awesome. Like already the thing with Troma is it's spreading the word. And so more people are going to see Sweetmeats than I probably could have ever have had seen it just from Troma.
So I'm gonna tell you just a little story. So I actually was a production assistant for Grind. New movie coming out. Mark's movie, right? Mark
Yeah.
Cantor or whatever, his movie. I didn't realize, but about, I want to say 2 years ago, I actually picked up one of his movies called Night Zero. I believe it's called Night Zero. And zombie movie, everything like that. But it was, you know where I actually bought it? Walmart. I bought it in Walmart.
That's
Like,
wild.
I didn't even realize, he was able to do distribution, whomever, he got the distribution deal through, actually was in Walmart. I know it's not like, big high end store, but
No.
the
I mean,
videos
Walmart.
at the
That's
Still,
time,
no. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
the
that's.
videos at the time,
it's
yeah,
saturation though. That's
I
the
used
thing.
to play.
exactly.
We used to joke, and I think we actually did this. Is to take a box of movies and just dump them into the $5 bin, and then if
Hmm.
anybody were to grab them, and take them up to the counter, they'd be like, "This isn't scanning. This isn't in our system," and they'd be like, person would just take it and be like, "That is a great way to get your movie out into the world."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they won't bust you if you bring something into the store, right? It's only if you
Mhm.
take something out.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
like I don't know about you guys, but like we used to at like midnight at Walmart play the $5 bin where you stick your hand in and you at the
Hmm.
same time pull a movie out and you see who
Uh-huh.
has the worst one.
Uh-huh.
That's what we're watching tonight.
Yeah,
Wait.
we used to
Sweetmeats.
do movie roulette when I
I'm
was working at Hollywood Video. Same type
Yeah.
of thing.
oh,
We'd get a bunch of the stuff from the return bin and we'd be like, okay, draw straws. Whoever got the worst ones, like, okay, you get to put your hand in this and figure out, what movie you're getting. And one of the people ended up getting Lord of the Strings at one point.
Lord of the G strings. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They named it Lord of the Strings in Utah because they were afraid that it wasn't going to get rented here. And Utah's very sensitive about their porn situation.
What would sweetmeats be called in Utah?
I think
Just meats.
so. I think things have changed to a point now where I think you'd be able to get away with it. I think sweetmeats would be fine because like it's insinuating, but it's not just straight out there. It's like Zach and Mary make a porno.
Yes.
We only got Zach
mhm,
and Mary in like Walmart out here, for example.
Yeah.
So
mhm,
you wouldn't have make a porno on there. But I think nowadays, I think we've gotten far enough away from some of the previous people that were in charge that
mhm.
it'd probably be fine. But
You have to rename it like savory food or something.
savory beefs.
That sounds worse. Savory
Yeah, it
beef.
really does. It
Savory
really
beef
does.
sounds like what happens after you eat sweetmeats from your rear end.
Get the masher.
Get the mash.
That what a way to start a movie. By the way,
Uh-huh.
Again, that is, and I swear it's not very heady. It's the headiest. It's the lynchiest I will get is he is unable to flush down a giant turd. Like
Yeah.
that is his life. Like he is king shit a turd mountain. Like
Yep.
start off with a giant turd. Well, I just also love the dumb misdirection of just like it's the legend of Bobby Sweets, and he's got this Ode to Billy Joe anthem that's like playing, and it's just like, oh, amazing, amazing, amazing.
Yeah, him struggling with a fibrous dump. I did not expect that.
But
as the
again,
beginning of the film, for
that's
sure.
me like giggling and thinking like that's fun and funny, and then I'll go and see it with an audience, and they're just like, no, we're done, we're leaving. I hope you were happy with what you did, because
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
well, that's what gosh, what was it? There was something. Oh, I'm trying to think. There was something about a review that would. That's what it was. That if whoever will write a bad review, if it's catty enough and lengthy enough, and that they watched the whole movie and were really incensed to make like a really snarky is that when the 20-minute credit sequence begins, the song is Have You Had Enough? That I'm just prepared for the reviewer just to be like, and then the movie has the audacity to fucking ask, have you had enough? And then goes on for another 20 minutes and 2 more musical segments. Yes, I did have enough, and I wish I would have stopped.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Mm.
Okay, so anybody else have any other questions?
No.
I
Yeah.
don't think I have any other questions. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. It's a lot of fun to get to talk to you about this and get some perspective from behind the camera on this and the reasons for some of those things. Like I love the reasoning for the turd, for example, and I did catch like what you're talking about with the song for the credits. I thought that was pretty great. And it's I like those little winks and nods and stuff like that in a film. I think that's great. And I had a lot of fun with it. I did not know what I was going into. Um and it was not what I expected. And I enjoyed it a lot. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
One more thing from just because with this backlight and the way my hair is right now, I'm aging like a president. I have a 5-year-old daughter and the twin boys. When we started filming, Sophie Ferris, who is on the makeup team for Bobby, because we have the whole thing with the wig and the curly wig that's attached to the like Darth Vader. It's attached to the hat that comes down.
Right.
When I was getting my hair done, I was like, yeah, is there any way you could make it look like it's really like thinning and like receding here? And this is me a year and some change ago. So like I said, I'm aging like a president. Um, and she's like, is there any way I can make this look a little bit more thinning? She's like, I don't think you have to worry about that. I think it's already doing it. And I was like, fair enough. And like now, like looking at this, I'm just like, this. I'm not holding on to this. If it goes, it goes. But I'm looking at this now, and I'm just like, oh man, I want the hair. I want the Bobby Sweet hair from a year ago. I would die for that. This is definitely gone now.
The camera is thoroughly unkind in every way. I had a podcast a few weeks ago where someone actually messaged in the chat. They're like, "Cypher, did you gain some weight since last time you were on the show?"
What a dick.
And I was like, thanks. Like,
See why I have an avatar? Y'all see why now.
yeah. Yeah, and we got hit up. The show that we do, that Fuzzy and I do with a friend on Friday, I saw someone in the chat that was like, "Why are they all bald?" And I'm just like,
Oh, is
I don't
Fuzzy
know.
bald? Is Fuzzy
Genetics?
bald?
Genetics?
Yeah.
Yes,
Fuzzy.
Fuzzy's name is misleading. He is actually bald.
Well,
I'll be
I used to have
He's got fuzz.
I used to have a fro until what, like 35, 40-ish range, and then I was like,
And you had kids?
yeah, and it's like the hair is going too far back, so let me just help it along and shave it all off, and it just makes it easier.
Yeah,
It happened
my
before the
hair-
kids.
My
Yeah.
hair ended up actually getting it's got fear of heights, so it just started climbing down my back instead. You know, is what it is.
With the movie that we might make, the one I was alluding to about the kind of Adam West inspired, is I may actually star in that one because it will kind of be this weird culmination, like this almost like Cornetto trilogy for us of King Should Have Turned Mountain characters. But I was worried, like originally when I was writing it, I was just like, you know what, this would be better played by like a aging like 50-year-old like William Shatner kind of person. And then like over the past year and a half that I've been writing it, I'm like, I'm aging well enough that I think I could, if we filmed it in the next year, I think I could do it. Thanks, kids.
Mo Fuzzy?
Well, yeah, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to spend with us and answer our questions and the making this film. This was a lot of fun. Uh, Laughed out loud quite a bit, and like Cypher, I was not really expecting this. Like I saw the pig mask, and I'm like, okay, it's one of the films that we'll review and whatnot, but it's like I wasn't expecting a comedy, and it was a pleasant surprise. So that I give you kudos for that, and wish you the best with this upcoming opening and everything for next year and stuff. But man, I think people will be in for a treat with Sweet Meat. So for all those when they do get to watch this episode, definitely check it out.
What a
bit of
pull quote.
comedy.
I think people are in for a treat with the Sweet Meats. That is
Hey,
good.
I try.
We'll put it on the poster.
So guys, is this above a 7?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a
It's
hard
not a
knack
feast,
of
Evan.
David
either-
Fincher 7, like Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. Is this above 7? Is that how you weirdly rate your movies?
we have like there are times where we feel that Fiona is punking us with some of the movie picks that she's picked. Was not expecting one to be as much of a comedy one time, and it was like really on the nose kind of thing.
Which one was that? Have you
I
had the
made them-
filmmaker? Oh.
I made them watch Summer Camp Massacre, Otto,
Okay.
and yeah, I made them watch that one, and they thought I was punking them. So now we have this weird thing where I seem to be 7 and above, and they seem to be below 7. So I always ask them now: is it above a 7 or below a 7?
But then she always messes with us because if it's a good movie and we're all like, yeah, this thing's great. She's like, nah, it was like a 4.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are we doing? So
Like I think
yeah,
what was
you can
the more
never
recent one?
guarantee how she's going to vote this. Like you can almost guarantee that if you liked it, she won't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You're like Mike Flincham, the grandson of Bobby Mackey, who is Bobby Sweet the third in this and a producer. He just loves and relishes garbage. Like the more garbage, the more he's just like, oh, it like how did they make so many bad decisions?
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece. Right? The pendulum swings. Like
Yeah.
you can't like to make something for 90 minutes as bad.
Yeah. Well, that's just like what Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman always say with what gets to the point where it's so bad that it becomes exquisite, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It goes
Yes.
right the other way.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Hollywood Babylon. And that's
Yeah.
what I always say. Anybody that talks about Frank Conniff of Mystery Science Theater, where he would constantly be interviewed and they'd be like, oh man, how is it you watch the worst movies of all time? And he's like, these aren't the worst movies of all time. He's like, you can't sit through a bad movie. He's like, movies that we make fun of, there has to be something genius about it.
Yeah.
And that's why you're able to mock it. If it's just a bad movie, it's like beating up like a kid in a wheelchair. Like there's no reason to do that. And you don't want to do that. He's like, but these movies, it's like when anybody ever says that Plan 9 from Outer Space is the worst movie of all time. I'm like, bitch, that ain't even the worst Ed Wood movie. Like Ed Wood made way worse than Plan 9.
So I'll give you guys a perfect example. So I tried to watch Ravish Nation. It's a zombie movie. It's not that old. And as you said, you have to have good audio. That's like one of the number one top things you want to spend your money on. That is why I could not continue on, is because the audio was so bad.
Yeah. It's hard.
So I can see when a bad movie is a bad movie, but there are quirks to every movie that make it good when it comes to independent.
You're such a mom.
I love all of my children.
Yeah. If I spent time and or money on it, then there must have been something
Yeah,
about it.
exactly.
Well, I really enjoyed this, and thank you so much. I think this was definitely better than the watch party would have been.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my apologies for the watch party. That was one of those where I was like, all right, I'll figure out how to do it if enough people want it. And
Mhm.
then like only 4 people did it. And I was
Yeah.
just like, all the hats that I'm wearing, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'll put it for streaming, and if anybody wants a refund, I'll give a refund happily because I don't. Again, as much as
Okay.
I've talked about bait and switch, I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. But yes, I'm glad the people who were happy just to get the link to the movie, and I offered everybody. I was like, if you want a Blu-ray, I was like, I'll send you a Blu-ray copy, and I hope that wherever you all are, sounds like Cypher, you are in Utah,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and then you guys are not too far from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yes, we're in Pennsylvania.
That Sweetmeats will be sweeping the nation in 2025 and coming to an independent theater near you.
Mhm.
Fingers crossed.
Or at least a state next to yours, right, Cypher?
Yes.
Yeah, I got plenty of people who can at least I guess get me a copy across the border. So
Hey, I filmed my dry bar comedy special in Utah, in Provo, Utah. So I've been there before. I recorded my second comedy album at Wise Guys
Mhm.
in Ogden. I think
Mhm.
Ogden.
Yeah, just
Okay.
off 25th Street.
Yeah, beautiful area. But there are a couple indie houses there that could be a location,
Okay. Yeah,
I
I've
think.
a couple of those right near me. I'm about 7 minutes away from Wise Guys. So
Well, let's keep in contact as the stuff starts getting announced to see if you are next to any of those places, just to be like, hey, have you guys seen this thing that's going on?
Yeah.
Because like as much involvement as I have, I mean, it really is on Troma's shoulders to what ends up happening. But I I'm always willing to shoot an email or whatever, being like, hey, you should maybe check this out. But
yeah, I look forward to seeing it showing up here. We always need more. We always need more out this way. We get overlooked because
yeah,
of Utah's history. So
Mhm.
you need more weird.
Now,
we do.
now I only have your email through Indiegogo.
Oh, I'll happily give you. Like I said, people find my email all the time.
Mhm.
That I don't know, so I'll happily give my email. I mean, I'll just give my email to everybody. Ricky.glore@gmail.com. It's
There you
not a
go.
hard one. It's not a hard one to crack. I already got so many
Ricky.Glore.
spam. My credit card got hacked this weekend. Someone bought a
Oh.
$3,000 Apple computer.
Wow.
Oh.
And so, but weirdly, in connection with that, I started getting a ton of spam
Mhm.
emails. So I don't know what the person did for the hack, whatnot, but it was like it was the credit card, it was the emails. So yeah,
Well,
All
I
right.
won't send you too much spam. I promise.
too many penis enlargement pills.
Yeah, yeah.
I promise I won't send my script to you.
You can. I just won't read it.
There you
I mean,
go.
or I will read like a couple lines, and it has nothing to do with like being worried about stealing an idea or anything. I mean,
Mhm.
we had a movie that we were gonna look at making, which was What If Smokey and the Bandit were a horror movie?
Uh-huh.
Because
Mhm.
love Smokey and the Bandit, and it was about black market organ harvesting
Okay.
on back roads, and it was called Roadkill, and that was a
Okay.
pretty heavy dark comedic element to it. If you YouTube, you can see a movie that either just came out or is coming out. It's a more
Mhm.
indie movie called Roadkill,
Uh-huh.
and there's a lot of very similar elements. And so
Mm.
I was just like, well, looks like I'm gonna mine that script for some of my favorite parts because I'm never making that movie because they already did it.
Mm.
Oh man.
It happens.
Hmm. Oh yeah, and I'm never like obviously people especially of a certain age are making stuff that kind of tap into those nostalgia pleasure centers of shit you grew up with.
Yeah. Definitely. So, all right, but I really do appreciate you showing up and spending almost 2 hours with us.
Yes. Do you
Happy
I
to.
lost track of time.
while we have you, is there anything that you want to get out there and mention where people can find you over the next few weeks, months, as everything's going on?
As long as they give the okay, you will hear what the next plans are for Sweetmeats on X at Ricky Glore. On Instagram, where I'm probably on the most, at Glore Ricky. Facebook, Ricky Glore Comedy, or TikTok at Ricky Glore. Or at NKY. I'm never promoting this. I don't know why. At NKY Films on Instagram.
Okay.
Whatever I share on my Ricky Glore or Glore Ricky or NKY Films on Instagram, Troma generally will also be a collaborator on it and share it as well.
Mhm.
So
Awesome.
all information as far as Sweetmeats or me should be on all those platforms.
Awesome.
Okay.
Sweet. Thank you.
All right. So, as you know, Fuzzy will be on which one are you gonna just go right over to?
The podcast I'm going to be on next is FSP, Fun Speculation Podcast. It's about gaming. So if you're a player on Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, or Nintendo, for that matter, we talk about the games coming out for the week and everything. And I'll be going over those and also discussing what was the game of the year or our games of the year that we've played over this past year. But it was awesome being on here with you guys. I greatly appreciate you taking the time, Ricky Glore. And for those that want to find me, I'm on pretty much all social media, but Facebook, just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere and you'll be able to find me.
What about you, Cypher? Where are you gonna be next?
All right. Well, you'll find me on social media all over the place as Silent Cipher. You might catch me this Wednesday with my brothers on Xbox International podcast, doing that at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hoping to get one more episode with them before we go off on our holiday break. So keep an eye out there. Keep an eye out on social media, and I'm working on some stuff on Fiverr right now. So maybe some voice work stuff coming up soon. But Ricky, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us. Thanks for listening to our silly ramblings and some of our questions. Really do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun to talk to you.
My ramblings have been way sillier, so thank you.
No, it's been a lot of fun. Like I said, it's great to hear the stories behind the scenes. So
Yep. So, you can always email me at ferociousv78@gmail.com. You know, we have the Friday podcast at 6 p.m. Unfortunately, Mr. Cypher over here, we won't get him back until after January. I think Kaneda as well. We won't get back until after January. So it's probably going to be me, Fuzzy, and Matt, who is Presto Beaches. I'm trying to get Jarrell Dennis on here, which was supposed to be on here tonight, but unfortunately, he had an emergency situation too. So we'll get him on. He was one of the victims in Sweetmeats.
Beautifully murdered.
We want to try and get all angles of this movie and get some more stories of other experiences. So, but thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Ricky, for being here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for having me.